Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's town hall. If this is your first Hospitable Town Hall, thank you for joining us and welcome, and thank you to all of our regulars too. And as always, just going to do a few housekeeping updates before we get started. Just an FYI, we are live streaming and recording today's session. So, if you get disconnected at any point or want to watch the recording back, you can do so on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@hospitable. We're going to kick things off with some company and product updates before moving on to some audience Q&A. And as always, if you do have some questions throughout the session, please try to keep them in the Q&A functionality at the bottom of your screen. We have plenty of people here to help out. If you put them in the chat, we might not see them, we might not be able to answer them, so please try to use the Q&A. I'm going to briefly show up our usual disclaimer, and then I'm going to hand over to our CEO and founder, Pierre Camille.
Hello, I love when you call me with my full name. That really makes me feel like I'm in a world of pain. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another town hall. And yes, you see me at the beginning. You will also hear from me at the end. And so for this first segment, onboarding two new members to our team. The first one is Ryan, that technically started a bit more than 2 weeks ago. Ryan, now you can turn your video on and unmute yourself to introduce to, all 300 of our current participants, and that number will only go up. Tell us more.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan. I've joined Hospitable as a senior customer support advocate, so very much looking forward to helping you all be successful in your businesses with Hospitable. I'm coming from Fanø, Denmark. I've been living here for about 3 years, but originally from New Zealand. Fanø, Denmark, you probably haven't heard of it. Tiny island, about 3,000 people live here, so you're all welcome. Fun fact, the island that I live on has a very strong tradition of folk music. So I recently picked up the violin, which the rest of my household is not such a fan of, but maybe we'll get there one day.
I miss the piece about you living in Denmark. It's a fantastic time of the day to be. Okay, welcome Ryan from Denmark. And next one, so Chris, who's joining for a new role, customer onboarding team lead. So yeah, tell us more about what you're going to be working on at Hospitable.
Thanks, Pierre, and happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. As Pierre said, my name is Chris Bielik. I'm based in Surrey, Canada, so weather's getting a little bit cold these days, but I'm still surviving. Just joined Hospitable last week, basically to help lead our onboarding efforts, working with hosts and property managers as they get set up and grow with the platform. Really here to make our hosts feel very confident while they're moving their information over to our platform, making sure that guests feel very welcome and hosts feel very welcome. And I just want people to know that, there's somebody here on the onboarding side to make things feel clear and more comfortable overall. Not a host myself, but in my previous role, I did lead onboarding and implementation efforts for the team in the real estate industry. So I'm still learning and developing, but I can definitely take a lot of my experience over here. And a fun fact about myself, I had to think about this for some time, but in those rare moments when I'm not being a dad, I'm a bit of a history buff, a bit of a video game nerd. I love reading about history, playing video games, where my two favorite video games are Age of Empires and Total War. So if anybody's interested, playing those games, put it in the chat.
Age of Empires is such a marker. My God, I'm having tears just thinking about that. It was a long time ago that. Fantastic. Chris, you are not a host yourself, but obviously you are yourself getting onboarded to the onboarding team. When is your product test scheduled?
It is on Monday.
It is on Monday. Are you freaking out a little bit? Wealthy amount?
No, feeling good, feeling good. Derek's helping me on that one, feeling pretty good, confident. So looking forward to moving live with the team. It's going to be exciting.
Thank you. I'm very excited for you for this particular position for our onboarding team that's getting more structured. I think that's fantastic. Now, without further ado, we can go on to the subject of this panel. We want to talk about dynamic pricing because the team has plenty of improvements to announce that we believe may save you money, earn you more, and make Hospitable far more valuable for you. Andrew, good luck.
Thank you. All right, let's jump right in. A bit of a quick refresher for those of you that may be new to Hospitable. We launched our in-house dynamic pricing solution in April of last year. We had no delusions of doing it all on our own. We worked with leading partners in the industry to adapt and embed a tried and tested model in Hospitable. That model has access to detailed pricing data on more than 20 million listings and uses market demand, your historical performance, your booking window, and a host of other signals to calibrate the price of every day of your calendar up to 2 years in the future to maximize your revenue. We did this, one, because a lot of you told us you needed help with pricing. We work with a lot of hosts who are new to the industry and have never had anyone really give them feedback on how they're doing on pricing. We also did this because enough of you told us that this is now an expectation, even a requirement for some of you for Hospitable to offer, and that whenever possible, you want to do everything on one platform. And because pricing is so foundational to our mission and vision, we included it in all Host Pro and Mogul subscriptions, which we should probably be the only ones in the industry, I think, that were crazy enough to do that. And just an update on those stats then, because we're including it, we're effectively, as of this point, giving away about $225,000 in retail value of dynamic pricing software for free to our customers, trying to put some money back in your pocket, not just in improved performance, but also in reducing your costs. So when we set out to do this, besides having a requirement to be performant, to have an impact on improving the revenue performance of your properties, we focused on three core principles, and I'll just review those briefly, and then we'll jump into an update on the impact we're having. So this had to be simple. It had to start simple. It had to continue to be simple as we continue to improve its capabilities. We talked to so many hosts when we started on this mission who were overwhelmed by configuring settings on their other pricing platforms. Our goal is always to provide the right balance of additional settings that let our more sophisticated customers say, opt into complexity when they feel it's important, but that complexity is by no means a requirement to get the benefits of this feature. We believe the users who mostly let the model do all of the work are getting the biggest benefit of this feature and getting the biggest time savings. This being a new feature, we knew we had to build trust in this product by being transparent. We invested a lot of energy into making sure when you preview our prices before you get started the first time, you get feedback on where our model thinks you are over or underpriced, so you can see how your pricing will change if you make that switch and trust us to become your source of truth for pricing. We made it completely reversible, and it's easy to experiment on one, some, or all of your properties without ever having to disconnect another pricing tool if you're using one. More than anything, we had to make sure that you knew you were always in control of the price on any given day. You can always manually override our suggestion and set your own price, as well as being able to turn us off if you think that we're not doing a good job. You can fire us as your dynamic pricing solution and immediately return to your previous strategy without missing a beat. So since launching, how are we doing? Another update on the numbers. As of today, we are at a nice round number. Pierre says we never trust a round number, but sorry, I could hit refresh and it's probably 752 now. But yeah, 3,750 hosts are using our pricing solution on some or all of their properties. That comes to a grand total on the property side of 11,457 properties that we are providing daily recommendations on their pricing for every single day of the calendar up to 2 years in the future. But those numbers are kind of more important to us. What's more important to you is this having an impact on your business? If you aren't using this today, what can it do for you? So we previously did an impact assessment in August. That was kind of the first time we had enough data to look at, hey, what is the impact of what we're doing? We had about half as many users of dynamic pricing as we do now. So this time when we came in and did a bit more than Q4, we looked at, I think, the last 4 months, we had a lot more properties. We ended up with a sample set of about 10,000 properties. We exclude a lot of edge cases. We make sure that we're only looking market in market when we do this, comparing like properties to make sure that this is as accurate as possible. And that's how we got down to those 10,000 properties. That includes properties in the control group, right? So the properties that are not using dynamic pricing, we're comparing those customers to customers that have adopted our dynamic pricing tools. And the latest numbers from the survey, without further ado, looking at occupancy, we had a 14.9% increase in occupancy on average over the 50 plus markets that we looked at, market and market, a 15% lift in occupancy. Pretty good. Now, ADR, your average nightly rate. Overall, your average nightly rate came down slightly. Now, last time we reported a drop in rates like this, there were a few comments about, that's not what we're looking for from dynamic pricing software. But it's a bit more sophisticated than just dropping prices across the board. The model does a good job of knowing which dates to raise prices based on demand versus which to selectively lower. So we looked at a little bit deeper and said, okay, why a 3% drop? Why are we lowering prices? Well, again, it kind of works out in the balance, but 26% of bookings were 10% or more above your average prices. 14.7% of bookings were more than 20% above your average price. So we feel like the model is doing a good job of opportunistically finding you good bookings, but also kind of doing a good job of filling your calendar when you have missed that window of opportunistic high prices and going lower when you need to be more competitive for last minute bookings. So what matters is the final outcome, which for us is RevPan. That is the revenue per available night, the gold standard. So hosts using dynamic pricing earn more revenue than comparable hosts in the same markets who did not upgrade and use this feature. RevPan is the most reliable performance metric for us because it combines pricing and occupancy into a single measure of economic return. So looking at either occupancy or this ADR drop in isolation can be misleading. It's calculated as a total revenue over a period divided by the number of nights available on your calendar. So a 15% increase in occupancy without an increase in RevPan would indicate underpricing. That's not what we see. RevPan increased materially, which tells us pricing and demand are balanced correctly. And likewise, if we're here saying that average nightly rates went up, but occupancy fell, that would indicate overpricing, protecting rates at the expense of revenue. Again, that's not what happened. The RevPan increase confirms that the system is doing exactly what it was designed to do, adjusting prices where demand is elastic, protecting price where demand is strong, and maximizing revenue across the entire calendar, not just on peak nights. Now, if you're still kind of balking at these numbers, some of you may be thinking, okay, 12.2% impact, what does that really mean to me? That feels small. But in 2025, our mean revenue per customer was $149,694. If you don't like a very rounded number, that is pretty precise. I took the cents off. If you're an average hospitable host, somewhere in that bucket of $150,000 in revenue, that means you made an additional $18,000 in revenue by enabling some additional free software in your hospitable account. That feels pretty material, pretty impactful. So great, good news. The tool is working. Now let's switch to the point of the evening where we get to show you some fun new things. So I am going to share my screen and show you a few of the new controls that we have built into the product. And I often mess this up, but let's go ahead and give it a try. Okay. So we're now looking at a test account. Sorry, the pricing data is going to be pretty stupid for this account. But looking in the account and let's see, let me just refresh my window real quick. All right, we go into the hospitable calendar and we can turn on this dynamic pricing preview and look at our prices. If I was not already using dynamic pricing on this property, I would be seeing a comparison of my current pricing with what we're going to do. Prices highlighted in red when we want to underprice, or green when we think you could increase your prices. We think you are underpriced in that scenario. So when we launched dynamic pricing again in April, these were the entirety of the settings you had. I don't think we even had a custom base price. You could choose your strategy of your base price, and you could set a min or a max price. Now we have this whole other section. If you scroll at the screen resolution, we have advanced settings, and we've added a couple new advanced settings, and we've also improved, I think, the usability of a lot of these. One of the big themes, if you watched our roadmap town hall, is we're going to make the existing product, more simple, easier to use, so more people can get the value that we've already built into the product. So a lot of these have been simplified. I'm just going to run through them quickly. A little bit of like a dynamic pricing workshop for those of you that might have questions. So last minute pricing. We released the ability to control this pretty recently, maybe a couple months back. We always had a last minute pricing algorithm running, and you can actually now see the kind of global model settings for last minute pricing that if you haven't edited, this is what's happening. And so what we liked about exposing the controls was they also fit with our principle of transparency, that we can now communicate what the model was always doing from the beginning, but you could also now take ownership of that. So I can come in now, and what we added actually just this week was the ability to remove rules, make it even simpler if you like, to add rules back, and then to to control this at a very granular rate. Last minute pricing, usually for most people, this is at a certain number of days out, gradually bringing your prices down to try and fill the gaps in your calendar with last opportunities before those dates go unbooked. Weekend pricing, we simplify the language here a lot. I think this was a kind of a complicated thing to explain, especially because we allowed you to set a custom percentage price that was based on an increase or decrease, and we didn't communicate kind of what these presets were doing. So what you're seeing here, and this is what you'll see in all the different advanced settings, is opting into complexity. So if I'm okay with my weekend pricing, I never have to touch this setting. If I want to make slight adjustments, I can make slight adjustments. If I have very strong opinions about weekend pricing, which is basically, am I in a vacation area, a ski resort where maybe the weekends are quite big for people coming to ski, or am I in a city urban area where actually the weekend to weekday difference is not that big? I could reduce the impact if I'm in a city. I could raise the impact if I'm in a vacation area, and I could go exactly to how I want, to tune it exactly how I want with these precise controls here. That's the weekend pricing. You can opt into complexity. We hope that you don't need to do anything there. Demand sensitivity, this also got simplified. We changed the names of these presets. We were trying to stay with what we used for base price, conservative, aggressive. We found there was a lot of ambiguity in what conservative and aggressive mean. And so we've changed that to use plain language. We've re-described how these features work. And we think it helps you get in a better setting if you do opt into further complexity to understand what percentage means. So we're explaining that 100% match is what is recommended. You can go to 110, you can go to 120, you can go to 80 if you think that the demand needs to be either more impactful or less impactful. So quite happy that that is a much, I think, more approachable tool for new users. Seasonality. This is a brand new one, and this was honestly one of the most longest awaited controls. It was quite complicated. I won't go into that, but we now have seasonality controls. And again, the opting into complexity is great here because this is very simple controls, reduced impact, recommended, increased impact. Again, vacation rental market where you have a high off-season differential between your low season, you would want an increased impact. And when you update these presets, if you want to opt into complexity, you can now edit at the month level, increase, decrease percent. And we give you a bit of a guide. This is what the model recommends, having opted into increased impact. Here's what the increase decrease is by month for this property. And I can now edit these values and we blend those across from month to month. So it's a nice smooth pricing curve for the seasonality of your property. If our model you feel doesn't match your seasonality, you can come in here and tweak. Hopefully our model gets it right and you don't have to do too much to tweak these settings on seasonality. Far future pricing, again, another setting that was always there, but hard to communicate on. If I ever use any of these settings and get them customized and find out, okay, I actually don't like what I've done, I want to recover, everything can be reset to the model default, and I can clear that out and get back to a setting that I like, or I can remove rules, add rules. What this does is basically assuming that most of you far in the future, where it's actually really hard to detect demand and have good data on what pricing should be, want to opportunistically mark up your pricing, but you can use this now anywhere in your calendar, basically, whatever your strategy needs. Last brand new feature that we'll talk about tonight is historical anchoring. Historical anchoring, kind of a complicated way to call this. Think of it as a dynamic minimum price based on any bookings you got last year for similar dates. And so what we'll do is this is what the model defaults are. We only use this feature in the global model from 120 days out, again, where current market demand data is hard to get that far out, but we do know what you did last year. And we can say, okay, 120 days out from now, don't take any booking below an amount that it booked for in a previous year. Any booking that I got, I will not book for less than that 120 days out, but we remove that setting and let demand take over earlier on. Further out, again, harder to say what's going on. Let's take 110% of any booking at that time last year. I've talked to a lot of users who really like this setting. They want it on all the time. I would say be careful setting 100% for early time data. It's really going to take out your ability to get kind of those last minute bookings that might book below but are still better than having an unbooked night. You can set it below 100%. If you want 80%, in the near term that at least gives you some dynamic minimum price and might make you feel more comfortable depending on your strategy. Historical anchoring, brand new feature available for all users today. And the minimum night stay has a significant improvement. We made the language a lot simpler, and we also did something that a lot of you had asked for is this was too simple for some of you, setting my longest minimum stay. Maybe I want to look at in the far future, I really want to take 5-night bookings at a minimum. That's great. But I know that's kind of restrictive. And when it gets closer to my time, I'm willing to go down to 2 nights unless it's a gap night. And we never had a separate field for this. We just said, this is your shortest minimum stay. It's always going to be a 2-night. We won't go below that. Now, if you do want to opt into complexity and say, no, I need another field, I need a gap minimum of 1 night, I'm willing to take that. If that's the only thing I can get, I'll go down to 1 night on gaps. So this will help you, one, set a nice decreasing minimum night stay as your booking window moves towards last minute bookings, as well as resolve automatically any orphan or gap nights you have in your calendar to whatever setting you have here. If you don't need that, you can just use this one setting and you're done. And then we've I think improved a lot the language on here on how you pick that strategy about when you want to start decreasing your minimum night stay, at what point in your calendar, sooner, recommended, or later. So yeah, happy about the usability improvements there. And with that, I think I've covered my section, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I don't even know if I need to do that. Yes, I'll stop sharing. And we'll go back to our presentation. I'm just going to do a quick setup for the next person here. So Sarah uses a third-party dynamic pricing integration with Hospitable. She spent a lot of time setting up her pricing in that software. She's happy with her current performance. She gets a good number of big ticket bookings in her prime booking window and fills out the rest of her calendar with more last-minute bookings that help get her to her revenue goals. She has 1 or 2 controls that are really important to her, and a bunch of other settings that she has kind of lost track of. When Hospitable launched dynamic pricing, she was curious. She's not really motivated by the savings from not having to pay for dynamic pricing software. Her pricing strategy is more important than $20 a month per property. But it would be nice if she could save time and the frustration not having to constantly jump back and forth between tabs. So she looked at a preview of dynamic pricing back in April when we launched, but she didn't see her pricing strategy in our model, a pricing strategy that she had heavily customized over the time. She saw a preview that didn't match her expectations, and she thought, meh, oh well, this isn't for me. Well, what if we could personalize pricing to your existing dynamic pricing strategy? And with that segue, I will bring Devin, our product engineer in charge of dynamic pricing, onto the stage to introduce you to auto tuning.
Thanks, Andrew. We on the dynamic pricing team have been thinking about Sarah's problem a lot. And so introducing auto tuning. Auto tuning is for those who have not yet used Hospitable's dynamic pricing on a property, particularly those who are using a third-party dynamic pricing tool. For these users who often have pricing strategies already set up that they are happy with, migrating those strategies to a new tool can be a pain, especially across multiple properties. Since we have all your pricing data, we asked ourselves whether we could reverse engineer your pricing strategy to ease the migration to Hospitable's dynamic pricing while avoiding a bad first impression if your pricing doesn't line up with what you're used to. When we started, we thought this should be easy. The scope of work was simple. We would look at the current prices of a property and using those prices, reverse engineer the settings to make an initial migration to Hospitable's dynamic pricing easier. How hard could it be? You would think that for the base price, you would take the average of all your prices. Simple. And for the minimum price, you would take the lowest price on your calendar. Also simple. And for last minute discounts, you would take the most recent price decreases. It all sounds simple enough. The list went on for each setting. However, in reality, there was much more to consider beneath the surface. So, what we learned. Those approaches we all thought would be simple turned out not to be so once we started working on them. For example, how do we counterbalance a $10 owner stay as showing up as your min price? Or super high seasonality, skyrocketing your base price, and adversely affecting your low season prices. We needed to refine not just our approach for each setting, but also our goal. We weren't trying to match a property's exact prices, but rather to improve our default settings for your property while staying grounded in our pricing model. For example, with last-minute discounts, we needed to look beyond your upcoming booking window and analyze and aggregate historical price data to detect the broader trend of discounting on the property and not just upcoming price decreases. After iteration and iteration, where do we end up? This is a property and their current pricing, not on Hospitable's dynamic pricing. You can see clear signs of a pricing strategy. We have min prices, we have max prices, we see weekend pricing, we see last-minute discounts, and local demand signals. Let's take a look at how this property's default price recommendations look with no auto-tune settings. Since the property is new and missing some attribution for our model to detect, we have underpriced prices. However, we see that in principle, the model's aligned. It just needs some adjustments to the settings. It's a perfect place for auto-tuning. Now with auto-tuning, we can see that prices are in line with their pricing strategy. We have captured a better base price. We've captured last-minute discounts. We've captured a min and max price in line with our settings. And we have a custom weekend pricing matching their weekend demand. All of these are now default values when a user goes to activate dynamic pricing on this property. As a result of this, we have gifted this user their time back when migrating to Hospitable's dynamic pricing. Now, even if a property is auto-tuned, the user is still in complete control of their settings. They can change or further adjust settings to their needs, including resetting them all to the defaults if they want to start with a clean slate. So, the rollout over the coming weeks. Properties must be eligible by showing an improvement with auto-tuning. We do not want to auto-tune properties if we don't see an improvement, obviously, but we also don't want to auto-tune properties if they have low occupancy. We want them to be able to start with a fresh slate and not be attached to their old pricing strategies. So currently, occupancy must be over 30% historically. And they also currently must be using another dynamic pricing tool so that we can auto-tune to a strategy. If your property becomes eligible, you'll see a badge on dynamic pricing like you see here. It's key to note that all auto-tuning is done using existing settings that anyone can change on the dynamic pricing settings page. If your property is not auto-tuned, you can always still use these same settings to achieve your desired pricing strategy. And that's it. Take it back, Andrew.
Thank you, Devin. Yeah. So yeah, great. Auto-tuning, it's unfortunately not for everyone. It's only going to be impacting those of you that haven't tried it yet. But this update that I'm going to talk about now, the last kind of major announcement we're going to make for this section, it does impact everyone, all of your current users as well. It's the foundational model. So the model that powers all of the recommendations that we're giving. We're rolling out a new version of the model, and it's designed to be both smarter and easier to use. The model is better at understanding demand, identifying what demand drivers are actually at play, knowing that, okay, this demand that we're seeing, what part of this is seasonality, what part of this is weekdays, what part of this is events, without needing a lot of that manual tuning. Again, we talk about auto tuning. We don't want you to have to be in the settings of this. We again think that most of you get the most benefit from letting the model do its work. And we think this new model that's going to be rolling out soon can do that even better than what it has in the past. So the result is going to be more accurate prices, even far into the future, which have traditionally been hard because of the scarcity of data, or in markets with less booking data. That means less work for you and still getting great results. So what do you need to do? You don't need to do anything. Our hope is that the new model gives you even more confidence that the prices that we're recommending reflect real demand, real intelligence, without, again, needing to go into your settings. Your preferences, when you do choose to edit them, should be more precise. The model, again, is better at picking out those demand signals. So when you do want to tune your seasonality, you do want to tune your day of week adjustments, those will be more precise adjustments and have better results to match your strategy without worrying about overreactions or needing to go in and constantly tweak the model. So not a lot to share on this today. This is going to start rolling out soon. You will have a period when you can opt in to this new model. We'll be pointing out a pop-up on the calendar. Hey, the model's ready. Do you want to apply this now? That'll give you a chance to say, okay, let me go ahead and look at my customizations that I've made. I might not need to have these here. I might be able to let the model do more work for me and kind of pull back some of those customizations. And we'll eventually retire the current model that you have in favor of this new model. It is many, many months in working. It is very highly tested. So we're excited to start rolling that out very, very soon. But again, what's available today as we kind of wrap up here: brand new controls, long awaited on seasonality, give you precise month-by-month controls to control your seasonality demand curve. You have historical anchoring. It's always been part of the model, but now we turn over the controls to you, giving you an effective and a dynamic minimum price based on last year's bookings. And we had a lot of requests for an independent midnight stay value on your orphan or gap nights. You now have access to this. And again, keeping in one of our big roadmap themes, we have made the whole feature, I think, much simpler to use, much more predictable and understandable, and easy to get started. Rolling out progressively from next week, and actually from today, to be fair, auto tuning is now live for about 500 users. We're kind of slowly rolling this out, and we're going to be, if your account applies and when it's turned on for you, we will let you know in the product, and you'll see that you now have an opportunity to view dynamic pricing for the first time again. So try it again for the first time and see if it is something that now works for you, given all the amount of controls we've added since we first launched. If you haven't looked at it in a while, we think it's a great time to reevaluate dynamic pricing as a solution for you. And then, yeah, the new model will be notifying you when that rolls out. If anything we covered today was overwhelming and you need help, we have people that are available to talk. You can book time with our team and talk about dynamic pricing. This is available to all customers. Dynamic pricing is available to Host, Pro, and Mogul users. Even if you're not on a pricing plan, you're on a legacy setup, and you're considering upgrading, we are happy to talk to you and show you what dynamic pricing could do for your account. So feel free to book a session there. And with that, I will wrap up. But wait, there is one more thing. This winter, something surfaced that made us rethink one part of how we offer dynamic pricing. And it's tied to Hospitable's subscription model. One thing that makes Hospitable different is how we bill for your properties. We only charge for additional properties if it actually has a check-in during the billing period. That's a choice we feel strongly about because it aligns costs with real revenue for our hosts. Dynamic pricing complicated that a bit. Now, while dynamic pricing is included for customers, it isn't free for Hospitable. We pay for the pricing model and the data behind it, but we've been very comfortable absorbing that cost because we believe dynamic pricing is essential to running a successful rental. But there's an edge case. If a property never has a check-in, there's no revenue on our side to offset the cost of running dynamic pricing for it. Even though we're still repricing up to 2 years of your nights, day in and day out, and supporting the future bookings that you're getting during that period for other months, you're not getting any revenue on that property, but we have a cost. To make that work, we previously treated any property using dynamic pricing as quote unquote active for our billing purposes. On paper, that felt like a pretty clean solution until winter seasonality kicked in and the real impact became clear. More properties were inactive for longer stretches. And if we look particularly at our highest pricing tier, Mogul users who are effectively being charged $30 a month just to keep dynamic pricing on in an otherwise inactive listing. That didn't sit right with us. So this month we fixed it, and this is already live. Now, if a property has no check-ins in a calendar month and is not invoiced by Hospitable, regardless of what plan you're on, we are going to charge you just $10 a month to keep the pricing running on your property. That's basically half of the retail price of dynamic pricing. It feels like a better balance between covering the real costs that we have, but staying true to how we believe pricing should work. So, good news for those of you on professional and Mogul subscriptions. We are lowering your cost when you have an inactive property even further. And that just felt like a nice way to end this segment and pass you to the AI team with Nick to give you some updates on AI.
Thank you, Andrew and Devin. Really cool stuff. So let's talk about AI and specifically auto reply, our AI autoresponder that's available in the Mogul tier. We have spent quite a bit of time over the last few weeks doing some, I think, pretty impactful quality of life improvements to auto reply, and I want to go through them today. First, we have quite a few guidelines, restrictions, guardrails built into auto reply so that the AI doesn't kind of, make stuff up or talk about things or promise things that it really shouldn't, particularly around financials. And we've documented this kind of in our support articles, but really on a case-by-case basis, it's sometimes really hard to tell why auto reply didn't actually respond to a yes. Like we send you those notifications, but there's no like further context. So now we've changed that. Every single time that auto reply chose not to respond for a particular reason, like a restriction, you now get an automated note added to the conversation generated by AI explaining why. So for example, in this case, it might have been something to do with the guest talking about maybe discounts or a credit card details, something like that. And now this is actually surfaced as a clear reason. Now you understand why auto reply didn't respond. So this will hopefully help you to kind of make better decisions, not need to reach out to support quite so often, and just offer more transparency and clarity. Now, along with that, quite a few of you have requested the ability to just have a simple message sent out whenever such cases come up. So when auto reply can't generate like a proper AI generated message, just some sort of simple fallback to let the guest know that you will reach out to them soon. That is available now as well. So if you go to your auto reply settings, you can enable a fallback message that will be sent as is whenever auto reply either fails to or chooses not to send an actual message. Now, another thing that many of you have asked for is the ability to pause auto reply for a specific conversation. Now, we already have the ability to toggle a different mode for auto reply where it delays sending a message, giving you a chance to go into the inbox and make a decision. But now you can actually go into the inbox. In the sidebar, you have an option, if you have auto reply enabled, to actually pause it either indefinitely or for a certain amount of time. And then whenever you're ready, if you wanted to, you can resume auto reply at your convenience. That is live for you now as well. Along with these bigger changes, we've made quite a lot of improvements in general around how reliable auto reply is. So lots of bug fixes and improvements. And we've taken the time to also make sure that it has access to, on a much deeper level than before, information about available and already purchased upsells, trip insurance if it's available, and kind of the policy details of trip insurance if it's being purchased. Same for security deposits, same for guest insurance, and also a much more detailed breakdown of the financials of the reservation from the guest's perspective, in case they're wondering, well, what was, if there's a pet fee paid or not, and so on. So all of these things put together hopefully create a much better experience going forward for auto reply for you. And there is actually more to come. So hopefully this time in 2 weeks, I'll have even bigger announcements around auto reply to share with you. That's it for me for today. And I'm going to pass it off to Emily to talk about Mogul some more.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Alrighty. Since the launch of owner payouts late last year, we have heard from many property managers who don't pay out their owners. They invoice them instead. Invoicing owners is easier in a lot of ways because you're never holding other people's money, but it's harder in many other ways. You've done the work and you haven't been paid for it yet. So your focus at the end of every month becomes sending out your invoices and then chasing down owners for payment. We believe that you shouldn't have to use your time chasing down money that you've already earned, so we want to help you with that. Starting in February, your owners will be able to pay invoices directly from the owner's portal. All you need to do is connect your bank account once to your business, invite your owners to do the same, and then follow your normal monthly process for publishing invoices. We will handle all of the rest. We'll notify your owners that an invoice is ready for their review in the portal and send reminders leading up to the due date, all from your own email from your custom domain. Now you sit back and just literally wait to get paid. And when you do, we will ensure that it's accounted for in QuickBooks if it's connected, or your profit and loss statement in Hospitable. And by the way, owner payments for monthly invoices are going to be included on the Mogul plan. So we believe this is a critical part of your business and we just want to take care of it for you. We are on track to go live in February so that you can get paid for January invoices, but you can go ahead and start preparing now so that you can take advantage of this and collect payment for your January invoices once you publish. So this QR code here is going to lead you to some help articles that show you exactly what's needed to get ready. You will simply be connecting your bank account to your business. Optionally, you can set up a custom email address, which we'll be using to notify your owners to do the same, and then invite your owners to connect their bank accounts, and we'll remind them of invoices that are due soon, and that is it. Speaking of getting paid, now that we've taken that stress away, we thought that some of you might have the capacity to take on some more management clients. Or maybe you only manage your own properties, but you'd consider taking on your very first management client. So we're working on something pretty special. You're going to see a poll show up on the screen soon, and we would love to hear from you. So for those of you on the call, what is the biggest factor that determines whether you'll take on a new management property? Is it the quality of the property? Is it the quality of the owner or the client? Is it your operational capacity or just about making money, or are you just not considering it at all? While we're giving you a moment to answer that, I'll kind of hint a little bit at what's coming, and we did hint at this in our roadmap town hall a couple of weeks ago as well. We really believe that the industry should belong to top performers, not just big names or well-connected people. If you're a top performer, we would like to be rewarding you with new opportunities. Sometimes life changes and owners decide that self-managing is just not for them anymore in this moment, whether they're taking a temporary break, maybe they're focusing on their W-2 job or their family, or maybe they're choosing to double down on expanding their real estate portfolio and they want to get out of the day-to-day. We would like to connect these people with you. Mogul has the tools already to help you manage for others, and soon it's going to bring you the opportunities as well. So let's close the poll and see what our results are. Where am I going to see these? Okay, so I think everybody can see these results. It looks like for the most part, everybody said the quality of the property, maybe second place seems to be, well, not considering, but then is the quality of the property owner. So operational capacity and economics were the lowest on the list. So that's really interesting. Thank you guys for taking a second to do that poll. If we've piqued your curiosity and we would really love to speak with you, whether you're currently managing for others or you're considering it, or you're an owner who wants to find a top performing PM, we would really love to chat with you. So you can scan this QR code to book a call, and we hope to chat with you soon. Next up, we'll be hearing from Marina with some very exciting updates on connectivity.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marina, and I'm bringing you some Vrbo updates today. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about how we will be releasing a brand new official connection for Vrbo. It's coming. We've been integrating with them for quite a while. We've been talking about this for so long, but it's getting closer and closer to becoming reality. So in this new integration, you'll be having support for many accounts, something that a lot of you have been asking me to, that we support. And tomorrow we'll be onboarding our first private pilot user to the new integration. And we're hoping to onboard all 10 private pilot users until the end of next week. So with these new updates, I'm going to now invite Tim to give you very exciting news about smart locks.
Thank you, Marina. Hello, everyone. A very quick update on devices this week. So first, a milestone. 1,000 of you have now connected thermostats to Hospitable. And to celebrate, we have released a new thermostat integration, Sensi. So this is currently in beta. The integration will allow you to customize presets that automate the temperature you'd like the property to be when your guests arrive, and then what temperature you'd like it to be when they leave and the property is unoccupied. This works exactly the same as our other thermostat integrations with Honeywell and Ecobee. So you can scan the QR code on the screen if you want to learn more about Sensi integration and the other thermostat integrations as well. And you can head to devices and then connect account to get started. That's all for me. Over to Abby on payments.
Yes, thanks, Tim. Okay, I have probably the most exciting update for everyone, and that is that it's tax season. Yay. Just a couple of announcements about upcoming U.S. income tax reporting. So if you have received payouts from Hospitable that exceeded the reporting thresholds for 2025, you will be receiving a 1099-K from us, hopefully by the end of this week, maybe the start of next. And the IRS reporting threshold for 2025 is $20,000 in gross payouts and 200 transactions. But some of you may also receive a 1099-K if you reside in a state with a lower filing threshold. And when we send out the 1099-Ks, we will also be generating our annual earnings reports. If you didn't get one last year, a little bit of background, those reports are for everyone that has received a payout from Hospitable in the year, regardless of whether or not you get a 1099-K. The annual earnings report will help you reconcile your 1099-K if you do get one. And in general, it'll be a resource for you when you are filing your income taxes in the US. If you have questions about US tax reporting, myself and Brandon, our accountant in residence, are going to be hosting a Q&A session next week on the 28th. We'll be able to answer your questions about 1099s, the annual earnings report, and then you'll have an accountant on the line as well. So Brandon will be able to help answer your general income tax reporting questions as well. So if you're interested, you can scan the QR code to register for that Q&A session. And if you can't make it, you can go ahead and register and you'll receive a recording straight to your inbox. I think next I'm going to hand it back to Andrew again, this time to talk about operations.
Yep, just a quick update on operations. One of the other big roadmap themes, we are completely redoing operations as a feature set. We're talking about cleaners, maintenance people, etc. A couple updates to share on that. So we previously talked about task reminders. These are now out of beta and live for all users. We've even been like tweaking the kind of the format of these reminders based on your feedback. So they go out now 24 hours before every task. They are only going out to the assigned teammate. Big win there. They go out in the language of that teammate. They are sharing operation smart lock codes if you're using those. They are calling out same-day turnovers. They are communicating all the context of the reservation they're cleaning, the reservation they're preparing for, and doing so in, I think, a really nice, clean format. There is no setup required for these. They just work out of the box. If you don't like them, you can turn them off, no problem. They are, yeah, I think just it felt great to close that gap in the product, not having task reminders. Another gap that feels pretty basic but has always been there is accepting or rejecting an assigned task. So as of today, that is in a internal pilot with our what we call the Hospita hosts. So our colleagues that are also hosting, they are just starting to kick the tires on this feature. We are adding a can you take this task, accept or decline at the bottom of your task assignment notifications if you're using those in Hospitable. And we're going to tell you what the results of that is if they accept or decline. That is just sticking our toe in the water towards a full cleaner portal, managing their task lists, being, working across different Hospitable accounts if cleaners are doing that, and really getting our hand in management, ending up kind of the goal being that you can pay your own cleaner. As I saw Susan was asking about in the chat earlier, we want you to be able to pay your own cleaner in the same way that you might pay your own owner. And yeah, that's where we're headed. Now to Derek to finish up our announcements with apps.
All right, great. Pleased to introduce our newest marketplace partner called Crew App. Crew App solves the least glamorous STR problem, trash day, aka why is this my life day. I'm actually a customer. I hired Crew App to push and pull the trash cans down to the street because it's not always that my cleaners are there on the day that the trash cans need to be pushed or pulled. This ended up resulting in Jenga towers of trash and recycle overflowing, great nest for raccoons and rats, and just a very unsightly appearance for the trash cans. Also required begging cleaners to go over there and push the trash cans and lots of Venmo payments. So Crew app is in the following states. You can see on the screen they're adding a lot of states, and if we get even just a small handful of hospitable customers together, they can create a new market. What happens for me is on trash day, they have an app. When I'm traveling, I get pictures to prove that they pushed and pulled the cans back on the correct days, and it's about half the price that I was paying my cleaners to do this service. So I think it's also an affordable option. Crew app built an integration, so it syncs your property data, so it's super easy to onboard. So welcome to our newest marketplace partner, Crew app. You can check them out in the product, click the apps page and just type in CREW and see if that will work for your business. I'll pass it over to Miles for event.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Derek. Okay, just the one event I think that I need to share, and so that is next week. We have a final call out for our Hospitable online conference. So if you are interested in 3 days of action-packed content, all about how to get started with hosting, but then also moving through to kind of really be a pro with Hospitable, then this conference is for you. Scan the QR code to check it out and see all the different sessions that we have. We have industry experts and a bunch of people from our own team sharing tips, and a lot of them are hosts themselves, so sharing what's working for their business. So please scan the QR code, get registered. If you can't make it to the live event, it is in the evening Eastern time. If you can't make it to the live event though, register and we'll send the recording straight to your inbox. So I recommend just going, getting registered, and then you'll get all of that great content once we wrap up. And that's it from me, I think. So I'm going to hand over now to PC to talk about host token.
Yeah, I promised I would be meeting you again at the end. So yeah, this is a segment about the host token, which is the way for our customers in particular to be investing into the future of Hospitable, of their property management software. Rather than the PMS owning you, you get to own a share of your property management software. Hospitable is one of the very, very, very few companies at this stage, at this scale, that basically is 100% owned by the team and its customers without any institutional capital. I can liquidate Hospitable if I want to, but then why would I do that? It's a lot less fun. So that is basically a way to build for you, not to satisfy the goals of a board. So with people that may not understand the industry and basically play games, not necessarily focused on building long-term value. So our investors, they are customers, they are the people that are building it, they are people that we're building for. So as a customer, you have likely the possibility to be investing into Hospitable. Go to invest.hospitable.com. There are a few steps if you have not gone through it already. If you are in the US, you need to be an accredited investor. Which service I recommend because people are asking me again is accredited.am. Unfortunately, there is a price point, but this one is the cheapest that I've found and they're one of the fastest. So thank you so very much for everyone that has been investing, adding to it recently. This is still early. You see this curve going up and to the right, and this time is exciting. However, this is still grossly undervalued. The valuation that we have now that actually, is $128 million would be quite fair for a company basically from, I want to say November 2024. That basically what would have been a fair market value at that time. Obviously now we are in January 2026 and we've grown quite significantly. On February 1st, the valuation will increase again, so it will be more expensive if you are thinking about an investment. At that point in time, the valuation will be at $156 million, which basically points to a company at $15 million, which is something that we passed at the beginning of last year. And again, there was plenty of growth. So we still believe there is a very good discount, 52%. We do it because we'd rather have our customers rather than giant private equity that we don't really care about us and really don't care about you. So that's your opportunity to own a little bit of a stake into a share into Hospitable. So go join on invest.hospitable.com. And now we get to start the Q&A session. Unfortunately, very limited by time. It's not for our effort of basically trying to go faster. We're going to try and do a few questions. I see a question in the chat with when will you support Sensi thermostat? And I really feel the urge to respond immediately. Now is a great time to support Sensi thermostat. We've announced our integration with them. So you can follow on updates, and the email that you're going to be receiving will give you all the information that you need. Miles?
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, just a couple of minutes of questions. So if you do have a question for us, you can head down to the reaction button at the bottom of your screen. In there, you can click raise hand. That lets us know that you want to come on stage and ask a question. When I call your name and invite you on stage, please don't forget to click the unmute button so that we can hear your question. So please, if you do have a question for us, go ahead, raise your hand. You could be our first caller of the day. Cricket so far.
That's maybe good news. Okay, we have one person showing up. Otherwise, I think we can go with batches because I think there are plenty of people that do have questions, groups of questions that I'm seeing in the chat.
Okay. We've got a question from Brent though. Brent was brave enough to ask. Yes. Hello, Brent.
Congrats, Brent.
Hello. How are y'all today?
Fantastic. What about you?
Oh, I'm great. First off, thanks for the platform. It's been great for us. I'd like to start with a commonly known statement that the best customer is one that you already have, right? We could all agree on that. And as a direct premium user, we do understand the need to vet these people as they come into that particular part of the platform. But what I would like to talk about a little bit is friction. We've had some people take advantage of our discount and book with us direct. But then when they go through the vetting process and have to come back to that and go through it again, that causes some friction. So we've had several return back to the OTAs, mainly Airbnb, because there's less friction there than coming back and going through the vetting process once again. So my request is to see, and I am aware of the quotes that you could offer people, but most of our people don't contact us ahead of time. They just want to book the places. If there was a way to reduce that friction by allowing returning guests to come through without being vetted, and that would help us tremendously to get those people driven towards our direct booking site rather than going back to the OTAs. And another request would be great if we could recognize those people anyway they came in, because that would definitely change our messaging tone and the sequences based on them being returning guests versus first-time guests, which we treat everybody as first-time guests now. So anyway, that's my question and my request.
Only fair. I can tell you about the second part, and I think Nikita looked into this because we thought that was really a great case for using AI, basically detecting that's a returning guest. And then there is all this long tail of basically what would you say to a returning guest that basically you would not say to a first-time guest. There is a certain amount of information that you would do. And then you have, but it's a returning guest, I know them, but then they may not be exactly on the same property. We did a feature actually that basically was rewriting the content of the rule to adjust to returning guest content. Zero adoption, horrible. Nothing basically was working according to plans. So we basically scrapped those plans. We can re-explore them a little bit later. Now, I believe Abby really wants to understand, really not to understand, because we absolutely understand you, Brent. It's only fair, but really wanted to say some things about the returning guest on direct.
Yeah, I just wanted to say feedback received. And it's something that is like really top of mind for us this year. We're thinking of ways that we can improve direct booking conversions. That's a big focus for our team. We have talked about having like a lighter weight verification step for guests that book through your website. And so that's definitely something that we'll look at this year.
And to be fair, Brent, all the infrastructure is there ready for us to be able to facilitate exactly what you're asking for, which is fundamentally when you have verified a person, you don't need to verify them 3 times. So there is some refactoring, some work that we need to do to facilitate that. But we really wanted to verify the identity of the guest once, so that then you don't have to ask for this again. So thank you, Brent, for helping me putting that back on the roadmap. Okay, I think we can move on to the next one, Jamie.
Yeah, just before we do, just looking at some of the Q&A chat. So just on the Vrbo private pilot, we will try to reach out to as many people as we can about that. I think we do have limited spots as we get going with it, and we can't invite too many people at once. But we've taken down people's names. We will reach out to you and try to get you onto the pilot if we can.
Yeah, I think I can also for Marina that basically the pilot is a very Vrbo managed process. And so we have a certain number of users for certain categories, and that basically it. The job is the tinier the pilot, in my experience of working with pilot, the tinier the pilot is, the more impactful it can be. We understand the pain that you're in. We really want that to be going live as much as possible. We will be talking in the next town hall about basically what that Vrbo official integration means with the lesson that we're learning along the way. Having all of our customer base into the pilot right now is a guarantee to lose money, having shit calendars, being very escalated. We're talking about early adopters that basically can accept things may be a little bit messy. This is not a product that's right now is ready for prime time. We're looking forward to working on this bit so that we can do that. I think, Marina, you wanted to say something more? Yeah, no, okay. So we'll be reaching out to you. Let me be clear. We want to facilitate the Vrbo official integration as much as possible. Next question from
One more thing.
Sorry. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So we still have one spot for people who are currently managing Vrbo on another PMS and they want to migrate and manage it fully on Hospitable. So if you were one of those and you're currently managing ideally over 10 properties, feel free to reach out. We have one slot and the pilot's still for you. So the other slots are completely booked. I'll see what I can do but no guarantees.
Yeah, it's not because Marina wants to be working with PMS. This is part of the requirements. This is the pilot. That's what it needs to be. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we've said your name multiple times, so I think we need to at least allow Jamie to ask their question. Hello, Jamie.
Sorry for that.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Oh, darn it.
Yes, you're live. We can hear you now. How can we help you today, Jamie? Yes. I'm sorry because you may have heard your name 3 times now, so probably that woke you
No
up.
problem. It's good information. Just a quick question, actually. If I'm understanding, it sounds like you guys are going to be rolling out a system where our cleaners can be automatically paid from Hospitable. And if I understood that correctly, when do you think that's going to come out?
Hey, Jamie. Oh, there's my camera. Ooh. Sorry. We are, like I said in the chat, we are iteratively releasing that feature. 2 of the pieces we talked about today, there are about 5, 6 other pieces, but before the end of this quarter, so that end of March, we should have something for you that you can go end to end on that new operations experience and end up having your cleaner automatically paid at the end of a completed clean.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Okay. We are slightly over. Let's maybe take one more.
We can take one more, and I'm sorry for everyone that has raised their hands a little bit lately. You can still send me an email to pc@hospitable.com if we want to, and I'll be happily forwarding that to the people that are responsible for the parts of your product you want to talk about, or maybe not just the product. For now, who are we inviting?
Refik, we are inviting on stage. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. Hello.
Refik, yeah, that's correct. Thank you.
How can we help you today?
I'm from the UK. I've just started. I'm learning to use your software. And as a newbie, I would like to understand your software and how to really utilize all your tools. And I've only had a 30-minute call with your team member. And would it be possible to really get in depth with your software so I can understand and then expand properly. Because I'm hoping to get on my second property, and if I can get this right first time, then hopefully this will make it easier for myself and others who want to join, obviously, your software.
I think
Hey,
it's for
Rafik.
Derek.
Yes. Hey, Rafik. Hey, I'm going to drop my email in the chat. Please email that. Yeah, I can see we had a 30-minute call. We do have a lot of options depending on how much help you want. Just email me and I'll get you in touch with the right person. I will
Great.
drop mine here in the chat.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Rafik. I really want to say something about this being terrific. But that's the end of this town hall. Thank you very much for your attention. I know it was packed with updates. The essence of it, fundamentally, what I'm going to be taking home with me, and I'm already there, but that basically is we have made it a lot easier for you to be checking if dynamic pricing is a fit for you, instead of having to configure every of the multiple variables that we have opened up and launched in the past few months. Now is a great time to be clicking a button and finding whether basically there is a way for hospitable dynamic pricing to basically be covering your existing revenue management strategy. So I don't think it costs you much to basically be curious and find out. This is basically the thing that I think hearing over your feedback, that's basically a way that we believe is hospitable friendly according to our principles, because we don't want you to be setting up 15 different screens of configuration, inputs, gears, etc. But you can go live with this in a much better way. And another thing that I want to highlight, because of the multiple features that basically we were talking about, but the not yet live to everyone feature, but basically accepting and rejecting tasks, that's coming up. I think it was really deployed today. So there is a reason why we don't want to have everyone right there. It's basically give us a chance to basically do some testing, but accepting and rejecting is something that lives in our code right now. And so it's maybe living in your inbox and in your products, in your user account sometime soon. Thank you so very much. Have a great rest of your day and see you in 2 weeks, same time, same place. Miles, you want to finish it off?
Sure,
No?
I can do. I wasn't expecting, but
You were not expecting.
if you have any more questions, you can go ahead and go over to the community page and you can ask us more questions there. Petra, our community manager, will help make sure the right person sees it. So if you do have any follow-ups, please go ahead there. And as PC said, see you again in 2 weeks.
Thank you so very much.